Let's talk about the pros and the cons of living in the western suburbs of Chicago. It is spring 2025. I'm gonna give you the good, the bad, the ugly, what it's like living in the western suburbs, somebody that lives there himself and has helped hundreds of clients move into this area. I can give you the lowdown on what it's like. If you're looking to make a move here or want to connect to talk real estate, our information's in the description below, but let's jump right in. All right, so first off, let's talk about the traffic. So we are a big city. However, being west of the city, there is some decent infrastructure as far as highways go. You have 290 going east and west, 90 going east and west and goes a little bit north. You also have 355, which bypasses the city. If you're west of the city, west of even, I would say Oak Park, you're in a pretty good spot to access highways. You can get up to Wisconsin or east to Michigan or anywhere around the city pretty easily. Now there is traffic, it's not all rosy, but you have the highways, you have the infrastructure. And the good news is you also have the Metra, which is a commuter train with plenty of stops along the western suburbs where you can get in and out of the city pretty easily. So even though I would say the traffic is a con because it is a big city, and even being 20 miles west, you still have lots of that traffic, I'd say the pros are you have Metra and you have decent highway access to go north, south, east, and west. All right, next let's talk about the weather. If you don't live here, you might have heard horror stories about the winter. What I would say about the winter in Chicago, the real con is the length of the winter, not to the degree that it gets cold or the snow is a ton or anything like that. I would say we've had more mild winters lately where I feel like I haven't been scraping off my car as much in the morning, or we haven't been snow blowing or shoveling as much. However, the length of the winter feels like it's expanding. It feels like from beginning of December through even the beginning of April, you have a chance for snow. You have a chance for cold weather, for windy, cold conditions. You know, we're here in early April right now. We just came back from spring break and we got right back into some snow flurries. Kids are out there trying to play baseball, and yet it's, you know, they're bundled up and it's 40 degrees outside. So that's not great. You get past that, there's nothing like summer in Chicago. It is the greatest place to be, in my opinion, in the summertime. The city's beautiful, it's amazing. The suburbs are awesome. And so if you can withstand that winter, again, it's not going to be brutally cold, or at least it hasn't been lately, but the length of it is a con in my opinion. All right, so let's talk about quality of life. The way I would define that is it a safe neighborhood? Do you have amenities? Do you have parks? Do you have good schools? And the great thing about the western suburbs of Chicago, even though the taxes are a little bit higher, depending on where you are coming from, they could seem very high. However, in my opinion, you get good value for those taxes because we have an incredible amount of parks. We have forest preserves everywhere in the western suburbs, especially if you're kind of between the Butterfield and Roosevelt corridor, Butterfield being the south boundary, Roosevelt being the north boundary. West of, let's say, Glen Ellyn, you have this huge expansive area kind of by Cantini and Arrowhead, where you have tons of forest preserves, you have tons of golf courses. It's a beautiful piece of property, and you can tap into all of that as a resident. So that's really great. The schools are fantastic. There's tons of parks. And so I would say the quality of life is very good. And so I think even though you pay those higher taxes, which would be a con, the quality of life is very good in the western suburbs. You also have quaint downtowns that are very walkable. So if you happen to live near a downtown Naperville, near downtown Hinsdale, or any of the western suburbs, Wheaton, Glen Ellen, you do have plenty to access in the city. So even though you're not living downtown Chicago, you can still make it seem like you have that really nice city feel within a quaint town where you can get, you know, walk to your coffee shop, bar, restaurant, all that good stuff. All right, so next let's talk about the housing market. The con of the housing market in Chicago is that we're one of the few areas that are still very constrained from an inventory perspective. We don't build a ton of homes here, or at least where we're located, we're a little bit landlocked. You have to go much further west to get any sort of new construction. And so we're very constrained. We have very low inventory to choose from. So the con is that if you're looking to move into this area, you have very few homes to choose from. It's very competitive, and home prices are still going up and up and up. Now, on the flip side, the positive part of that is even though it'll feel like it's expensive on day one, you're probably going to have equity 6 months in, a year in. That's what we've seen since 2012 here. I know some of the other areas in the US have shifted to buyer's markets. We are not that way. I was reading an article recently showing, basically comparing household formations and the demand for homes versus the inventory, what's being built, what could alleviate the inventory crunch. And basically it was saying how as a total nation, we could close the supply gap in about 4 years years, but that's really driven completely by the South, Southwest, the areas that they're building. They said it would take the Midwest 41 years to close the supply gap at the rate in which they're adding new inventory and building versus the rate of household formations. And then the East would have basically no path forward. So if you're looking to buy something where you can build equity, that's a strong pro in our market, because when you have demand that exceeds supply, home prices will continue to go up. So the con is that it'll feel expensive when you buy it. The good news is you are likely, very likely, to gain value on that home very quickly because of the inventory crunch. All right, so next let's talk about outdoor amenities. I touched a little bit on this in the quality of life section, but you have so many areas that you can explore in Chicagoland. A lot of it's free. What's not free is things like the Brookfield Zoo or the Morton Arboretum, but they are amazing places to check out, or go to Cantini, depending on what you're trying to do there. There may be a small fee to enter, but there's plenty to do. There's a prairie path that runs east and west for many, many miles that you can bike or walk or run. It's really great. And you have many other areas that you can check out. In Wheaton alone, there's like 400 acres of park to enjoy. And there's plenty of golf courses, things like that. So there's all kinds of outdoor activities, like amazing outdoor activities. And so this would be a huge pro if you're looking to move to the western suburbs. All right, next, let's talk about community events and festivals. There's probably nothing like being in the city of Chicago for this. You have all these different neighborhoods that have things going on just about every day. However, the suburbs do a really good job of building that community as well. There are, car shows like in Wheaton, there's concert series, there's a memorial park that does ongoing type of, music concerts, things like that. So there's so many different things to do. I can name a million different things, but the park districts around here and the city planners around here do a really good job of engaging the community. There's plenty of things to do no matter what town you're living in. There's Rib Fest, there's all kinds of things. So I think you'd be pleasantly surprised on the things that you could get involved with your community if you were living in the western suburbs. So there is a pro hidden in there, but I would say if you're comparing it to downtown Chicago, there's nothing like that. But if you're worried about being in a community where there's not going to be a way to connect with your neighbors or people around, I would say don't worry about that. There are plenty of things and events to get involved with. These are very, I would say, tight-knit communities. Even though they have 30, 40,000 people, it's fantastic how you can get to know everybody. Park districts are great. The youth sports programs are really good, and so you get a chance to meet people and get involved that way as well. All right, so to summarize, some of the cons, reason why you might not want to live here: you do have traffic, you do have a very, very long winter, and you do have rising home prices in a constrained market. However, on the pro side, I could argue rising home prices might not be a bad thing, because at least you're going to be building equity from the moment you buy that home, unlike many markets where they are in a buyer's market where they don't know where the bottom is necessarily, and it could take 3 to 5 years to hit that. So if you have to turn around and move, you could have negative equity in that property. So I would say it's a con from the standpoint of when you're trying to get in, it's very competitive and it's going to feel expensive. Now on the pro, you're probably building equity right away. There's also great schools, really highly rated schools. There's so many blue ribbon schools in our area that are nationally recognized. The parks are amazing, and the outdoor spaces, when you do have that summertime weather, you're gonna have plenty of things to do and to enjoy. Hope this video is helpful for you. You got a little insight into the western suburbs of Chicago, and let me be a resource for you if you're looking to make a move here. I run a top team in the Wheaton and DuPage County area and would love to help anywhere we can. Have a good one.